Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a great viewer question, and that is the how and the why of why someone in a relationship that is supposed to be caring, nurturing, loving, this might be in your family, this might be your spouse, it might be your community, your workplace, wherever this is, why would they then instigate or create this insecurity or criticism in the other individual? Why would they create an insecurity or a fear? Why is this utilized as a manipulation or a methodology of influence in a narcissistic or psychopathic relationship with another individual with whom they are targeting, with whom they are singling out, with whom they are ostracizing, for who they are scapegoating, projecting on, or sort of what they would just call they're a target. And so the reason why they choose these individuals is, number one, for an ego element, meaning how they get by or appear in the world, how they feel about themselves. And to understand why they would create an insecurity in others is very important to become sensitive to, conscious, and aware of. Because oftentimes it's recovering this understanding from previous tracks of your journey or in your relationship to understand how perhaps this has been deep-seated in you as a result. Depending upon how long you have been in a relationship with someone who is narcissistic, malignant narcissistic, or psychopathic. So, of course, the longer and more intense the exposure, the more intense, deep-seated, and imprinted will be the impact on someone's thinking and their higher order thinking, particularly about themselves, what they deserve, what they are capable of, what they communicate, what they decide upon, and ultimately what they experience and become. So it's very important to sort of unpack this or, take the lid off a little bit. The insecurity is, basically an instilling of fear, which means, everything is not safe. So if we look at this sort of element by element, as I like to do, and just sort of look at the dynamic, really sort of dissect it and get it all out on the table, and then understand, the cause has created this effect and the role of the insecurity, and then how to get to the other side so you are safe, you are feeling secure, you are not feeling just, tremendous amounts of anxiety or limitation, because that's often an experience of feeling limited in your ability, and then there becomes a negative interpretation. In other words, it's like adding insult to injury. It just seals the deal. It makes it even more difficult to identify and resolve, break apart the pieces, and then, process and digest the information and understand how you don't have to be a victim of this limiting treatment or this behavior that you have experienced that's designed to keep you down, inhibited, quiet, silent, not, catching up, not picking up on things, not voicing your feelings, not voicing your concerns, your needs, ultimately not being able to also interpret experiences as beneficial for you. So it's very important to be able to flip this around, because the self-limiting beliefs, once they are opened up, you'll then see you are actually free and liberated of the things that you thought were holding you back. Physical limitations you need to, re-identify and reframe. And along with a lot of other things, it's a process that has complex and a lot of very fascinating moving parts. So to understand the insecurity and the creation of this or the instilling of others and why they would do this to people whom they target as supply, or who they love or care about or keep in contact or relations with. It's to understand a little bit more about the narcissist. The narcissist, needs to have that leg up. They need to feel that they are better than. They have an insatiable need for power and control. Insatiable meaning really not ever able to be quenched, satisfied, or is good enough. So understanding what is going on in the physiology of that other person is crucial and very significant and important, because it's very different oftentimes than what someone who is not narcissistic is experiencing. So you have to identify also that there's going to be very different viewpoints on life, relationships, the world at large, professional development, income development, abundance, talent development on either side. So usually these individuals are going to target those people who have a big heart and are sensitive, otherwise known as having a great capacity for empathy. Empathy meaning, which is a trait which they essentially lack or have a deficit of. Empathy meaning the ability to connect with and relate to and experience the feelings of another. In other words, especially those feelings that companionship would be significant for. In other words, something, has just happened and this person is fearful or afraid, and then they're able to understand their feelings. I see how this would, hurt you. So they're able to have empathy, especially for others, which puts them in a very delicate position because they are then having empathy for someone who wants to take advantage of them. They're having empathy for someone who wants to have a leg up, meaning an imbalanced relationship. And the narcissist, it becomes imbalanced. I would even look at it as percentage. To what degree is the narcissist constantly talking about themselves, their needs, etc., etc. However, circling back, understanding that the narcissist needs to feel this way. So they have an insatiable need for power and control. So some people might say, well, peace and harmony, that's great. I mean, I want my dentist to have an insatiable need for power and control because he's working on my teeth. Or, what if I have a surgeon? I want them to have an insatiable need for power and control. Well, that's their skill set. They can still have empathy and be in control, and do these and have these talents and these skills and, and these traits, so it's to understand that positioning, that mindset creates a sensitivity or a lack of empathy to other, where they're bothered, irritated, frustrated, don't want to hear about it, want to shut it down when you either, promulgate something that either has to do with something else, or maybe a different viewpoint than theirs, a different talent than theirs, a different thing that they're into other than theirs. And they'll be very resistive to this and basically deem it as unimportant, not valid. Let's just not talk about that, or, and it never gets expressed, it never gets realized. And essentially this is from those individuals who are in the close proximity, or what we call the supply source in psychology. And so for them to keep this dynamic, this imbalanced dynamic, is crucial to their feeling of functionality in a relationship. And the problem, once again, is it's not damaging for them, it's damaging for others. And it creates, oftentimes for people who have empathy, who are very sensitive and are able to relate to feelings of others. So it's a perfect storm for someone of that type of personality caliber type, effect, however you want to say. It's a very significant connection then between the opposites that are attracted with those people who are very empathetic to them, and then continue the cycle of this dynamic in the relationship, meaning they are willing to always be elevating of them, even if it means demeaning of themselves, or agreeing to the demeaning nature that is directed towards you. So this then develops a numbness in order to continue. It creates a repression where, because it's painful, the person has to swallow their pride, swallow their guts, swallow their happiness, hide their truth. Whatever it is, they have to push it down, otherwise known as repression and suppression and sublimation. These are all defense mechanisms or ways of coping that Freud, father of psychoanalysis, originally looked at. These are automatic processes which are, become coping mechanisms. It's important to become aware of these coping mechanisms and the cause that's creating the effect. So the coping isn't coping you, and you're then releasing and not always coping. To constantly be in a coping matter is not to truly live. And so people feel that they have to allocate all sorts of excuses or write-offs or, taking the blame, or just allowing the narcissist to continue in their type of, relating style. This can be, very pleasurable, or it can function for a long period of time, until one party is saying, hey, we're not meeting on a specific level here. We are not on the same page. This is not what we signed up for, promised, wanted, and we're talking, big issues like buying a house together, having kids, getting pets, traveling, being able to pursue a business idea, pursue a religious tract in their life, develop, some foundation or something else that they want to do or pursue. It gets shot down, or is made impractical, and instead just to keep, things at the status quo. And sure, sometimes that is appropriate, that is fundamental, and that does need to be discussed and agreed upon and flesh it out, the pros and cons. But we're talking about when the narcissist will instill a fear or inadequacy, or otherwise known as toxic shame, in the other, which they basically plant the seed thereof. In other words, it's not a natural organic state to be constantly ashamed of, feeling demeaned, feeling lowly about yourself, feeling that you are, no good. That's an improper, inaccurate reflection of you, but this designed to keep you unhappy, out of their hair, away from them doing what they want to do or pursue, but they still want all the benefits of being able to have a supply around to do this sort of ego dumping on. In other words, if they can rid themselves of their insecurity, which is usually what is harbored way under the surface, of course, and then in the psychopath, it's completely different, because there's something that they basically want, from the individual with whom they're targeting. Contacts, money, whatever it is, business deals, what have you. So they will do that in order to keep them off balance and off center. Realize that the center of your being is getting very hot here in the Peace and Harmony studios. Woo! One moment here. Actually, can you guys hold on while I take off my jacket? Or either this. We're going to wrap this up. Where do we stop off at? We are going to pick up right where we left off on the next video. I'm going to cool it down. We'll see you on the next video. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. And I hope the videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. See you on the next video.